Hey, what's up, y'all? This is the Idavox Report, the second episode of our Vainglorious Return. I'm Daryl Lamont Jenkins. Christian Perez is with me, as well as Brian Powers. And joining us, hopefully forever, is the legend herself, Beth Foster. Hey, Beth, how you be?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm smiling. And Christian, Brian, missed you. And we're still sort of missing Brian because there's a few technical difficulties where he's at. So he's on the phone right now. So if you guys are looking at the video of this podcast, that's why you don't see him. But it's all good. I mean, what's up, Brian? Make sure everything's good down your way.
Yeah, man, I'm doing great. Sorry about the lag. It was killing us in pre-production, but it's hopping on the phone. I can hear you. It's great to hear you guys, and we got a lot to talk about, so I'm looking forward to it.
And Christian, you there with us?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Same old stuff here. Just enjoying my summer vacation. I'm back on TikTok. I've been getting into it with some anti-vaxxers lately, and they always seem to crack me up because it's always the same thing with them. And it's a lot of insults, a lot of calling me a sheep, but not really ever saying anything. So anybody interested in my TikTok, it's at Perez Podcast. It is what it is.
There's a lot to talk about. And we're we're waiting right now for Rod Weber, Director Rod Weber, because Patriot Front showed up in Boston. Y'all remember Patriot Front? We talked about them last show because they attempted to bum rush a pride event in Idaho, and they got stopped before they had the chance to. Well, they tried it again. Some of them are the same people that were arrested in Idaho. We saw pictures going around that, yes, they did get confronted. Yes, the police escorted them around and all of this, but they did their thing in Boston, and it's a good possibility that they could show up in other states, other cities in the Northeast. I mean, it all depends on what they're feeling like. So we're waiting on Rob to talk about that because he was there when they went back to their cars and went back when they got off the train from wherever they were in Boston. Folks were waiting for him. So
I have to ask you, Daryl, how do local activists find out about these, when the American Renaissance is coming? Are they just following them on social media, waiting for them? And then, what is the role that the police play? Are local police following these movements on social media? Because they always seem surprised that they show up. And I remember in Idaho, I mean, it seems like you had been preparing for that event. It seemed like for weeks, but the police seem to be unaware. So where is this disconnect with the police?
Well, the deal is this. Since Charlottesville, there really has been their rather modus operandi for any group that wants to hold a public rally like this is flash mobs. So, I mean, groups like Patriot Front, or the one up here in New England, this Nationalist Social Club, NSC 131, they like to they don't announce, they just show up. They just do kind of like a flash mob thing. And then they're only there for 20 minutes before they're gone or something like that. I mean, that's the case with Patriot Front.
I was going to say with American Renaissance, they're very aware that they're coming every year, but they're more worried about the people who are showing up to oppose the fascists.
Yeah.
And they are preparing to stop anybody from causing the fascist problems.
Yeah. I mean, because you had been here in the past and you had spoken about that, the troubles that you had locally in Tennessee. But it just, I don't know, especially with Patriot Front, it just surprises me how activists seem to be aware, but the police don't seem to be aware. And again, it builds on this idea that white supremacy is just not the priority for law enforcement in this country. And it's a shame because people are paying the price for it.
To the credit of anti-fascists, we're always watching for these guys anyway. And they always go into towns where they're not wanted. So, and because of what happened in Idaho and what happened in Philly a year ago, tomorrow, everybody is well aware of who Patriot Front is and what they're about when they come marching down the street. So they handle things. So we don't necessarily need time to get ready. I mean, once they show up, we're ready. So, but what was you saying, Beth?
I was just going to say in Woodland, California, somebody sent me a link just before we got on the call. The Proud Boys kicked in the door of a bar that was hosting a drag show, and the police stood and watched them do it and stood by while they went into the drag show after kicking in the door. The cops even ended up getting pepper sprayed when the security guards were trying to stop the Proud Boys from coming in. And the cops stood by while it all happened. So even if they know, I don't think we can depend on them to actually do anything.
Do you know where that happened, Beth?
In Woodland, California. I've got a link I can send in the chat.
I feel like
actually, I think I recall that. I think that actually happened on June 11th. If that's the same situation.
This is showing this one just happened yesterday.
Oh, this was yesterday. Okay, because I know they were being violent in some place on June 11th. I thought it was in California. June 11th, incidentally, was the day that the Proud Boys got snatched up in Idaho, and it was more like we weren't expecting, quote unquote, the Patriot Front to show up. Although there were a few guys that were dressed in the blue shirt and the khakis there. Walking around, and we were more focused on the locals. There was or the folks who decided to move out there, because what happened was first Vincent James of the so-called America Firsters, that Groyper crew, apparently is moved out to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and he heard about this Pride Fest happening in town, and he decided to raise all holy hell about it. But then comes along the Panhandle Patriots, who say we're gonna confront it, and we're gonna call our event Gun Delete. And it's like, that's when everybody just got set off and said, you know what, we're going to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. I've never been to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho before, and that was the first time I went out there. Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, by the way, for those who don't know, was the basically the headquarters of Aryan Nation. That was their headquarter town, and the band shell that the Pride Fest was being held on. We talked about this last week. Was the band shell that that Aryan Nations used for their rallies. So we routed them in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, but it's funny because Patriot Front ended up doing their thing in Boston. But it was just simply because we didn't know they were coming. And we didn't know they were coming in Idaho, but we didn't need to know. Anyway, whoa. Speaking of which, Rod is here. Rod, are you with us today?
I'm with us. Hold on. Woo! All right.
Well, I see your mic.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah,
I can hear you. I can hear you well.
All right.
I'm just looking at an empty seat. That's cool.
Everyone just saw behind the Wizard of Oz's curtain there. My bookshelf is showing through. Oh no!
You are so immodest right now.
You can hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, good.
Yes, we can hear you fine.
All right.
We can hear you fine.
Bird.
And by the way, it wasn't just Patriot Front. It was NSC. I mentioned NSC 131 earlier.
I confirmed that. Lauren spotted Chris Hood and friends driving by in that SUV with Texas plates.
Chris Hood is the leader of NSC. Yeah.
And on that note, she's jumping in. So hold on. Here we go.
Okay.
I mean, I've had suspicions of this the whole time because of
this new setup with the mic is weird, but yeah, okay, we're good.
Well,
just go.
Okay, so I've had suspicions.
So basically, before y'all start, I just want to just say, everybody, this is Rod Weber and Lauren Pespisa. I know I got it right now.
Yeah, you did.
Yes.
All right. And they are famous for a number of things here and there in Boston, but also on Apple Plus. the legendary documentary, it will be legendary, 2020, The Dumpster Fire, which I have a brief appearance in.
Yes,
and,
you do.
We want to welcome Lauren and Rob back to the show. And this is just a spur of the moment thing because Patriot Front decided to show up. And we said we got to talk about it, especially since y'all were there. So break down what you so both of y'all can just basically break down what you saw today for the viewing audience.
So the first part of it we did not get to see directly. They marched through downtown Boston. They marched from Faneuil Hall to Boston Public Library and then Haymarket, and then went to Back Bay and like posed in front of the Tasty Burger. And then we, meanwhile, we're trying to drive up to get to them. And by the time we got there, they had gone into the Back Bay train station. So we went in there.
We were so close.
We were so close. And we went in there,
close.
And a very kindly woman at the MBTA worker, I basically asked, "Hey, did you see a bunch of Nazi looking dudes go through here?" She's like, "Oh yeah, they took the Orange Line to Oak Grove. And they should be there pretty soon."
And I gave Lauren credit because I was there trying to swipe my
Yeah,
card.
he was trying to get a ticket on the train.
We're going to get in there. We're going to follow him on the train. And Lauren says, "Nah, come on. Fuck that
Just
shit.
ask where the Nazis went.
Just talk to this nice lady." She's like, "Oh yeah, I saw those Nazis. The Nazis just got on. They're going to Oak Grove."
You could probably catch them if you hurry, So we got in the car, went to
Lauren was sensible.
Yeah, went to Oak Grove. They actually the train was stopped because it's the MBTA and it's having there's always, I could go on and on about the problems with the MBTA right now. But so by the time we got there, like there was just cops there and a couple other people kind of waiting for them. In fact, even the transit police were like, "Oh yeah, the guys that you're looking for haven't shown up yet." Like it was kind of funny.
Oh, and, right, that's funny.
Yeah.
It looked like there was some other anti-fascists that caught wind of the fact that they was coming.
Yeah, I tweeted on the way, like they're going to Oak Grove because, it's, if anyone's in the area, come down there, and people did, which was great. So yeah, we hung around, waited. Cool. We saw about like 50 of them get off.
But so Lauren had pointed out to me about the drummer. Tell me about the drummer.
So I remember I was watching one of the first tweets I saw. Somebody tweeted a picture and there was a guy with like a snare drum, like dun 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 dun. Like it was like the military, like the fifer and the drum and the freedom trail, patriotism. So, I was like, I don't know. We were joking in the car. I'm like, man, this drummer sucks. We should go tell him he sucks at drumming or something, or make a request for like, a prog rock song or something. You can't, whatever. We're joking on the car ride over.
And I even on the car ride over, I did the Beavis voice.
Yeah, we just watched
this guy sucks.
Yeah,
this drummer sucks.
We just watched the new Beavis and Butthead movie, the Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe. It's actually really good, and I recommend it. So we're not here to shill for Mike Judge, but we've been talking in Beavis and Butthead voices to each other anyway. So yeah, we were making jokes, and then I guess. Yeah.
Then, so I was calling them cucks, as I do. And I started going, nah, like, so I'm like doing like Iron Man, like style, nah. But, so I'm like, "I am stupid cuck.
Yeah.
I'll never get laid. I'll never fuck." I don't know. Some to that effect. And this guy, he was one of the unmasked dudes with a very thick, a Brooklyn Brewing kind of beard, comes up to me and he says, "Well, what are you doing here? What is your name?"
There's a cop right in between you there.
And so I said, "Hey, my name's Rod. Who are you?" And he's
Butt Four. His name was Butt
He
Four.
said his name was Butt Four. And I'm like, "Butthead?" Yeah, that's cool. But your drummer sucks. And then he starts saying, "Well, no, here's the thing, dude. Here's the thing. Do like polyrhythms and these kind of these meters.
It's really hard to do complex meters and and
odd polyrhythms.
And, he starts talking.
He's talking like he's Neil Peart or like Bill Bruford from King Crimson, like getting into this whole prog rock thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're a bunch of cocks, just cocks, motherfuckers, cocks.
Yeah.
And so right on that note, they start the whole pack of them. There must have been like 80 of them.
There was like, I don't know, there was
I don't think it was 100, but I think it was like 80. It was well over 50. And they just start running. And I was
because that's what I was going to ask. I don't know if anybody else wants to jump in, but I did see Boston Herald had them at about 100.
It was a lot.
It could be. It was hard to tell because we were in the middle of it, and
they kept coming. Like there's a long line of them. So I'm guessing between 50 and 100.
There were enough that I didn't do my usual walk down the line with the camera and walk back, because I was afraid if I walked to the end, I wasn't going to get back to the front. But so when they did start running, I decided to just go for it. I ran with them. And so to my credit or discredit or insanity or whatever you want to say, bravery, courage, or stupidity, I ran right up to the front because I knew that they were trying to cover up their license plates. I knew because I'd gone there earlier. I saw that there was a whole row of Texas, Michigan, all these out-of-state plates. Got them all. Got all the motherfuckers. And you got them, and they're all on video. And they're all on video on your. I just posted it on Twitter.
I'm watching it now. I got it on loop on my Twitter page.
Just about 5 minutes ago, I posted all those license plates.
Yeah.
Literally, I've been working to export this stuff. There was a lot of exporting issues, but I've been working around the clock, with my School of Elves here. Lauren did a dance for Kali Ma because there was 5-6 times. The Twitter and with Premiere Pro, you don't want to hear the technical things. There was a lot of technical issues.
There's a lot of swearing.
A lot of swearing at the computer, but it all worked out, and then finally got it uploaded. And so we're coming straight out of the gate here, straight out of the gate. And that was the thing, is I just had a sneaking suspicion that was them. And sure enough, it was just the whole street. Yeah,
they were piling into those cars, like 5 into a sedan.
Right. And then Chris Hood comes by.
Oh yeah, and then Chris Hood, we see a
now.
Yeah.
Now we do have to explain, as I said before, Chris Hood is not Patriot Front, but he is the leader of another.
But is he? But because he was in the outfit.
He was in the outfit.
And Lauren confronted him.
He was.
Yes.
Yeah. Here we go.
I knew it. Because you know what? I was walking up and down the line yelling, Chris, you owe me some chicken wings. Because I'd said, if you're not, you know, this thing about if he's not if he's not working on Patriot Front, he owes me some chicken. We had this whole fucking thing.
She trolls him hard.
Yeah.
It gets weird.
And so I was going up looking where's Chris? Where's my chicken wings? Whatever. And then as we're at the front where they're all getting their cars, this brown SUV goes by. I think it was New Hampshire plates, and he's in the back.
No, it was Texas.
Texas plates, and stops, and he's hanging out with his stupid sunglasses, hanging out the window, and I'm like, "It's you!" And and then he confirms. He's wearing the uniform. I don't think he was walking with them when they were walking down that. I think he was already in the car.
Yeah, I'm guessing.
I think he wasn't with them because I didn't see him walking.
I agree. Working how he does, he was.
Yeah, but he definitely wanted to be known that he was with them because he was hanging out the window, waving, he was confirming.
He was coming by to say hello to us.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Well, let me get Beth into all of this, by the way, because it seems like we just keep running into Patriot Front, doing one thing after another. And the reason why I want to bring Beth in on this one is because at American Renaissance Conference this year, or rather last November, we had 3 individuals that were associated with Patriot Front and that called themselves Media to Rise.
Yeah.
And one of the guys that was that shot, that was the cameraman that was messing with us at the conference was Graham Woodson, and he's one of the guys who you see regularly with Patriot Front. He's gotten in trouble with drugs here and there, distribution. He got in trouble in Idaho. Don't know if he was there in Boston yet, but
yeah, there's a lot of guys to go through.
But Beth, did you have anything to say on that pointer?
I was curious, what was the anti-fascist? 100 fascists. What was the anti-fascist response? I know that was kind of spur of the moment, but
about a dozen. I'd say about a dozen.
But some tough.
Yeah.
They were ready to throw down. That was the thing, is that
we had to chase them for half a mile.
When we finished with the license plate kerfuffle, that's basically when the larger group of anti-fascists caught up, and when finally all the cars drove away. And by the way, one of these guys, actually, I stood in front of him, and he pulled his car into me. He didn't fully run me over, as I'm still alive here. But they were doing their usual use the car as a weapon kind of thing. When they were done with that, there's this bridge that goes over into this condo kind of region. Where there's a bunch of folks, they're in their swimming pools trying to enjoy the day. It's 4th of July. They're barbecuing, and a contingent of Nazis comes popping through. And they're thinking, WTF? What is this stuff?
It's like women with their strollers.
And we're following it, and you'll see. Actually, I gotta publish some more videos here, but it's the guy on the back of his jacket. It said, "We are the revolution," or something about the revolution. I don't know, some right-wing revolution bullshit. We followed them for quite a bit, and at that stage, it was just 2 of them. And then about a dozen anti-fascists, and there was.
And the neighborhood was very supportive of our.
Yeah, we had the "fuck Nazis" sign, so I mean, it made our position clear.
In Tennessee, we always have the cops fighting us to protect the fascists. What were the cops like there?
The cops were gone at that point. Early on, when we were so we're at the T station, and the cops were protecting them.
Yeah, they were getting it between.
Of course.
And they were also like, every time I step off the curb for like 2 seconds, get out of the street. And it's like, this guy's about to like hit Rod with a car, but whatever.
Yeah.
True.
What's the Twitter handle that you use where we can find the video?
I am at Rod Weber, and I just posted the first 2 videos, and I'm going to try to keep publishing a couple more as soon as I get off here. Lauren is at Splendid Spoon. And Rod Weber is ROD, like S in Rowdy Roddy Piper, meets Andrew Lloyd Webber, or Rod Serling from the Twilight Zone. Not to be confused with Robert. I'm not a Robert.
He's not a Robert.
Rod Weber.
Splendid Spoon.
But I want to thank y'all for coming out. I want to thank you for coming out at the spur of the moment. Thank you for being out there at the spur of the moment. And I'll see you tomorrow. Because I want that Patriot Front banner that y'all found a couple of weeks ago.
Yep. Okay.
I watched the video. There's a lot of Nazis.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
Hey, it's Brian on the phone. I didn't get to say hi to Rob and Lauren, but hi. And I haven't forgotten about Renters Radio, so I'm still waiting on that phone.
Oh God, I have not been redoing it yet. Maybe sometime.
Let me know. I'm here waiting patiently.
Well, the pandemic hit everyone hard.
Rod's trying to get me to do a podcast too.
Oh, yeah.
It's all
Look, I have a microphone.
I get it. No pressure. I'm here. I'm just saying I'm here. That's all.
Thank you.
I have a microphone and a red sheet. It makes us, it feels like something.
That's all you need. I don't believe that you need anything else, though.
I agree. I even have a red shirt. It says Free Vermin. Even the Fash were asking about that. They said, "Who's Vermin?"
I heard Vermin. Yeah, Vermin got knocked off of Twitter for some stupid reason, but he's back.
Yeah, he's back. He's back. Yeah.
Damn libertarians.
And well, I don't know. I mean, again, I've always said I'm not really sure Vermin's a libertarian.
No, they've knocked him off.
And we know some stuff.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, some stuff is coming up in the future, and I can't say it right now, but yar.
All right, so until the next time, I'll talk with y'all. After this is done. I'll let you know when this comes out and all that. But in the meantime, peace out. You take care of everything you need to do on Twitter. I'll hit you up afterwards.
All right. Fuck Patriot Front.
Yeah.
Fuck NSC. Fuck these Nazis.
All these Nazis.
Patriot Fart. I'm going to be calling them from now on.
Patriot Fart. That's right. I bet their car smells like it too.
All right.
Well, they're driving from Michigan, from Texas, from Utah.
5 of them in a little sedan. Ew.
Yeah.
They're little clown cars.
In July. Yeah. That's what happened.
God, it's got to smell like teenage boy in there.
And with their incel body energy, the fact that they don't have any women with them. Yeah. I mean, imagine what's going on there. It's like the 300, but they're incels.
300 with that exact level of hygiene.
Anyhow,
yes,
all right.
Sparta.
We'll let you go. Otherwise, we'll get
all right, y'all.
Yep.
All right.
Take care, y'all.
All right. Be
Bye.
good.
Take care, y'all. Praise.
Yummy. What are you drinking? A little incel juice? Oh, you can't load in if you don't come, baby. You guys are never getting laid. No load in for you. This guy is JF.
You owe me some fucking chicken wings.
Creed, we need chicken wings. No more FBI bullshit. Now the feds are here. Is that like Luke Rudkowski or is that Chris Hood? Oh, wow. Good time.
How y'all doing? You were looking for us?
So you guys joined up?
So you're all together now. It's like one big happy Nazi family. Wow. You guys fucking yet? How big's the circle jerk? And, right.
Oh, yes sir, no sir.
Now. You take orders now, huh? Oh, fed boys.
So that was the legends themselves, and they were out there. I thought that they were in Philly. I was worried about that because I would have been really mad if they were in Philly again. Because last year when they came out to Philly, like I said, last year it's going to be the year anniversary tomorrow of when they thought they were going to bum rush Philly, and Philly handled them. First the locals chased them back into their Penske trucks and into their little rental trucks. And then the cops got them for even trying to ride that way. So, but they, unlike Idaho, they didn't get arrested. They didn't get arrested for it. They just let them go and they couldn't drive back in their cars. They just, in their Penske truck, they had to do the walk of shame down the main highway until somebody came back and picked them up. But they were allowed to wear their masks then. They weren't allowed in Idaho. It's just one big farce after another with that crew. But I'm glad we was able to get some people out to handle their nonsense. So anybody else want to jump in?
Yeah, I think it's good that there is how do we put this? Like a motivated anti-fascist movement in this country that is aware of these organizations, where they're at, how they move. And what amazes me is how you, Daryl, and Beth, and of course, Lauren and Rod, how you remember all these people, their connections, the organizations that they work from. This is what you do. But you are the godfather of doxing. So this is what I would expect.
We're gonna get back to that in a minute, but Beth, what are you learning about this particular crew and about how we handle these particular crews? So,
I think what I remember most from Montgomery Bell about them is that
Montgomery Bell State Park.
Yeah, at Amram. To somebody who wasn't informed, you would think they were just some media collective. They presented themselves that way. They can play the part, they can play the role. If we hadn't known, I could easily have seen people talking to them, believing they were just some journalism crew, maybe a school crew filming a documentary. So it's really important that we know who these groups are and what they are up to, because it would have been really easy for them to have gotten people to talk to them at Montgomery Bell that would have then been targeted by the fascists. Mm-hmm. They can play the game.
I think you have made a point. And I think you made a point at Montgomery Bell how we weren't allowed to be anywhere near them at all. And they were allowed to come to us. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of thing. They haven't announced when they were going to have the next American Renaissance Conference, but that's the kind of thing, and that's the kind of problems that we're having with the state of Tennessee's handling of that particular conference and other conferences that happen in the state. So we're going to be so we're trying to get together a crew of people that says straight up, look, even before this conference is even announced, we got to start handling this nonsense because it has gone beyond the conference itself, and the issue is now the state of Tennessee. So we're going to be focusing on them because the fact of the matter is, with all the other stuff that Tennessee seems to be doing these days, there needs to be something addressing the kind of BS that's been happening, and it needs to stop.
Yeah.
And there is no greater example of how things need to stop than what happened, what the Supreme Court has been doing in recent weeks. The rulings that came down over the past couple of weeks, whether you're talking about, I'm pretty fine with the Carrick and Seal part, but Miranda, now they don't have to read Miranda to you anymore. And that, by the way, to all you Democrats out there, is something that the Biden administration joined in. For those who don't know, the police don't have to say that you have the right to remain silent anymore. They don't have to read that out to you anymore. And that was something that the Biden administration approves of. So Supreme Court knocked that out. Supreme Court, obviously, everybody knows, knocked out Roe versus Wade. We saw that coming on as of last month, or as of back in May. It's July now. And everybody is mobilizing around that. And we're seeing some very weird shite.
Not everybody's mobilizing.
Yeah, that's the other
Democrats
part
are using it to raise money.
Yeah, they're not. I wouldn't call what they're doing mobilizing. Did you see the two young women? They were the activists. I believe it was on MSNBC. It was an interview where they were being asked about the Democrats' plan, and they were talking about how disgusted they were about how immediately after they said like shortly after the decision that they kept getting text messages asking for money. And pushing people to vote, but there's not actually any bills. There's no pending legislation. There's no actual plan on behalf of the Democratic Party to combat this assault. I mean, it's like I keep saying, and I feel like I'm on the record here. It's the Republicans are fighting, and the Democrats bring a knife to a gunfight consistently. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you saw there was there's an interview with Kamala Harris. And she basically gave up the ghost. She said that the Democrats have no plan to fight the Republicans over Roe. When they asked her, "What are you going to do?" She said, "Do what?"
Yeah, she's the Democrats. Yeah, that interview was so maddening because the interviewer had to ask her like 4 or 5 times.
Yeah,
why don't you mobilize your current congressional contingent and get the votes to stop the filibuster to pass this? And all she would say is, we don't have the votes, you need to vote, and get back to how we need to vote for Democrats and give them money. But she kept pressing her, and in the end, she never admitted they do have the votes, they just have to do a little work. Manchin and Sinema may be lunatic right-wingers, but they're actually pro-choice to some degree. And Susan Collins from Maine said that she was disappointed. So why aren't you going into their offices and cutting a deal with them to end the filibuster for one vote in and codify Roe and legalize abortion throughout the whole United States, and then get back to doing nothing all the time? But they don't even want to put in that little. They don't want to put in that little amount of work. They went right to, we need to raise money and pander for votes. And let me tell you something. Every Democrat out there that's going to get fired up and go vote for a Democrat this November, there is a Republican who's just as fired up about being anti-choice that's going to go vote too. Voting does nothing. These fuckers don't want to do their jobs. They never have, and I doubt they ever will.
I got one. Did you see that as of a couple of days ago, Joe Biden cut a deal with Mitch McConnell? As in, Joe Biden is going to confirm an anti-abortion judge in Kentucky.
Who worked for the governor who pardoned some of the most heinous things as retribution when he lost the election.
Yeah, it's frustrating because I want the Democratic Party to be who the Republican extremists think that they are. And they're never going to be that.
Well, Beth,
I want them to
was
do
gonna ask
something.
about that. Yeah, Beth, I was going to ask you about that actually, about what's going on in Kentucky. How are they responding to that little deal that Biden made with McConnell? For those who don't know, as Christian said, Biden struck a deal with Mitch McConnell to put an anti-choice life to a lifetime appointment, an anti-choice judge onto a federal bench, and in exchange, Mitch McConnell promised not to hold up any more of his appointments.
Yeah, he took Mitch McConnell
I
out of
wouldn't trust Mitch McConnell to throw him, but never mind that. What the hell is Biden doing? And how people responded to that in Kentucky, Beth?
Where I am in Kentucky, it's a very rural area. And if you were here, you would believe we have no chance of not just heading down this road to Christian patriarchal nationalism. There's no opposition. When you get out into the cities, it's very, very small. Any group in the rural areas where I'm in the Appalachian area, that there's any opposition to what's happening. The right wingers have tied up the rural areas, which is something I've said for so long. As the left, we've abandoned the rural areas. And I don't know if it's too late to fight and organize for these places, but I think that's one of the only hopes we have. We do have Charles Booker, who is going to be, he's a U.S. Senate candidate. He's going to be running against Rand Paul. We have never had a Black senator from Kentucky. Kind of mind-blowing. Charles would be the first. And Charles, I don't know if he's got a shot. There is some grassroots organizing going along with his campaign that maybe we can pull some base from the rural area. And I don't know. I don't know. It's bleak in Kentucky. It's bleak.
Yeah. I mean, it's
one of the
just a
things,
simple matter of go.
One of the things I wanted to talk about with Roe versus Wade and the Democratic Party, I was listening to an interview with a strategist who worked for the Democratic Party. And the interview was done anonymously on a podcast I listen to a lot. And he was saying, I'm done. I'm done. That there were people within the party, high-ranking people, who were cheering when Roe was overturned because it was such a good fundraising opportunity. And the only conversation was about how are we going to use this to raise money? And this was somebody from within the party, who worked as a strategist. So, I don't know what the way around is to fight back, but there's scarier things coming. This election decision they're going to be making next year. They could overthrow democracy with this. I'm not sure the coup on January 6th failed. I think it's still in progress.
No, they're coming after worker protections. They're going to go after gay marriage. They're going to go after trans rights. And we have a Democratic Party that just seems feckless. That just seems like they're going to let it happen. I mean, you see, it's disappointing when a congresswoman like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez can articulate and put together a better response than the actual White House, right? I mean, it's frustrating because Biden's gonna wring his hands. He's gonna shake his fist, but he's not actually going to do anything. He's not going to name anyone by name.
He's shaking his hands with Mitch McConnell.
Yeah, exactly. So he's not
exactly.
It's frustrating because Joe Biden has again proven to be everything the left said he was going to be, right? So it's like every centrist in your life was like, he's going to beat Trump. He's going to do this. And from day one, he said, nothing's going to fundamentally change. And I mean, things have gotten worse, buddy. And
hold his feet to the fire.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say this, the moment I realized Biden was done was about a month ago. I was flipping through Instagram. And on Snoop Dogg, of all people, on Snoop's Instagram, he posted a video making fun of Joe Biden being sleepy and out of touch. And I'm like, they lost Snoop Dogg, right? Snoop Dogg doesn't care about the Democrats. It's very easy to like there's just no will. There's no drive for victory, right? And the Democratic Party could be reaching out into Hollywood, could be reaching out to these celebrities, and they don't care. They don't want to.
They could pack the court. We are in a crisis. It's time to do whatever it takes.
They could allow abortions on federal property, on military bases. There's options out there, but they're just not going to do it. They're not going to do it. And it's things are going to get a lot worse before they get better in this country. And I really feel like that's the way. And people need to start looking at making connections, organizing locally, focusing on mutual aid networks, because the Democratic elites and the state apparatuses doesn't look like they're going to come in to save the day. One of the things I did immediately. Oh, go ahead, Daryl.
No, I say that's one of the frustrating things about the Democratic Party. They are insisting, they'll call your names, they'll try to shame you into voting for them. And then when you vote for them, they don't do the things that they are expecting to do when you do vote for them. And now we have to start getting to the point where we're asking, what are you doing? Why? Are you actually going to do the work or are you just BSing us because you just want to stay in some sort of position? I don't even want to say power because they're not using any of it. They just want some sort of
well, they can raise money really through super PACs, right? Like someone like Hillary Clinton or Sarah Palin. It's like, what is Sarah Palin's job? Right? She doesn't have a job. She just lives off of donations, which is what, Donald Trump has done, right? We talked about it last time. He raised a quarter $2 billion in a matter of days from the marks that follow him.
I just gotta say, remember, if you voted for the lesser of two evils, this is evil getting its payback. This is evil doing what it's doing. You don't vote for evil. Good thing, evil flourishes when good people do nothing, and one of the ways of doing nothing is by voting for the lesser of two of it. So, if you're voting for the lesser of two evils, stop it. You have nothing to lose now, and if you do, Democrats and Republicans will take it away from you. Now, there are some good people on the state level that are trying to fight as hard as they can. Some of them have been successful. It depends on the state. I'm not down in them, but it seems to go as you go further up in the Democratic Party. And when you start getting into the federal level, all of a sudden you forget what you're there for. And it seems, and if that's going to be the case, then we're going to have to start looking at what we have to do to protect ourselves, since the party that keeps saying they're going to protect us is not. So
there really is. There really is no hope in that Democratic Party right now. I mean, I guess we had a glimmer of hope. I somewhat supported Bernie Sanders. I wasn't the biggest fan in the whole world, but he was there. But now we got Kamala Harris, who is just, you listening to her makes you want to bang a nail into your own head. She's just is completely clueless. Pete Buttigieg, I mean, Cory Booker. These are not people that inspire hope and change. It's just more of the same coming. And the path we're on to Christian fascism, there's not even a speed bump to it anymore. These are people that are not going to do anything that change that course with any significance. And it makes me worry for, the kind of world I'm leaving behind for my children, to be quite honest with you, because this drives me crazy.
Brian, I think more and more we're on a path where it's not the world we're leaving behind we have to worry about. I think it's the world we're going to be living in. I mean, we could be there in a matter of months, the way things are going, to something really, really horrific. I mean, we are at the point now where there's a big portion of the United States where a 10-year-old child could be raped, become pregnant, and be forced to bear that child. And the father would, the rapist who fathered that child would have some rights to that child. I mean, that's how do you get more extremist than that? And we actually have that as the law in some states right now.
Yeah.
So in some respects, we're already there. I mean,
and we have
the pro-life court that just said we can't the EPA can't take measures to protect us against climate change. We have a generation of, we're going to have, in 5 years, we're going to have children entering this public school system that they've broken, who are going to need special services, who are going to need all kinds of things, and the right-wing extremists are in control of those school systems. Yeah. I mean, it just seems to be spiraling.
It's an all-out, it's conservatives have been playing chess for 60 years. Democrats have been playing tiddlywinks. Like it's the Republican goal is power. The Democratic goal is silence the left wing and make money, try to balance this path between corporatism and rainbow corporatism. That's what they want. And it's these centrists that don't understand you can't have it both ways, that's only something that can last for so long. And they keep accommodating these dangerous forces in this country, and we see history repeating itself. It's disheartening, and I think it's okay for people to feel really disheartened a little.
And I think it's really important to pay very close attention to the fact that while they're not fighting the Republicans as hard as they should be, they are fighting other Democrats or other progressives, and as we say, do something. As we say, we will look elsewhere. They fight us harder than they would Mitch McConnell. Yeah. They spent more money, time, and effort against Nina Turner in Ohio to try to keep her from getting a congressional seat than they did Marjorie Taylor Greene in Georgia. In fact, I see that Marcus Flowers, who's running against another black man, was running against her in the district in that district down in Georgia. There's people on Twitter telling everybody, stop giving him money, give him to people who can actually win. And I'm like, oh no, there's something stupid going on. But this is where we have to start recognizing, yes, those mutual aid organizations, we protect ourselves, which is one of the reasons why, One People's Project is a 501c3. I'd like to see if we can probably open up a women's shelter, open up a facility where women who are coming from states that will not provide abortion access will have a safe haven here, whether in Jersey or in some place that's a border state to a hostile one. So I want to start working on that. I want to start talking to some folks in regards to how to put that together. What will be the most beneficial? It's funny. Near the One People's Project office, there's actually an apartment building that it's in New Brunswick that can be used as a women's shelter, except for one thing. There's one of those right-wing pregnancy health centers across the street. Right. So it's not going to work. And plus, the cops are around the corner.
And that's the thing I think about too, Daryl, is as they become more and more powerful and the rights of citizens are stripped away more and more, those are the things that people are going to go to prison for doing. We are on a road to where those kinds of things will get you imprisoned or worse. We know what happened to Antifa activists in Germany, the darling ones in Italy, those. How is there, and is there some way we can stop this train wreck before we get there? What can we do? Is there anything?
It goes back to what I always say, that's why Occupy happened. I always make the point is that was an effort to try to find solutions within ourselves. I think the reason why they are afraid of Antifa, I think the reason why they're afraid of Black Lives Matter, I think the reason why they're afraid of the Me Too movement is because we don't have to go through them. We just go ahead and do it. We don't ask whether or not we can fight a fascist. We don't ask whether or not we can call for defunding the police. We don't ask whether or not we can call out a Bill Cosby or a Johnny Depp whenever they're doing something foul, So it's just basically, or Marilyn Manson, Johnny Depp's friend, who's acting a little foul these days too. We don't ask, we just do. And we say, okay, this thing is not going to be in our space, and we are creating spaces that become institutions, So yes, they are going to fight us. And and unfortunately, both parties are giving them the tools to fight us, but we have to be mindful of that and just fight them hard. It just means we got to fight harder. And if you have any indication, and I'm going to segue into January 6th, because after what we heard this week with the Senate hearings, everybody is wondering whether or not something's going to happen to the people in the higher echelons, your elected officials that push that forward. If something's going to happen to them, those appointed officials, so people within the Trump administration, if something's going to happen, and if nothing happens, there are no indictments, if there are no convictions, that's going to be the last straw for a lot of people.
It's definitely the last straw for conservatives. Because, I mean,
I don't think. I mean, looking at I've watched all the hearings in their entirety, and it's been fascinating watching history unfold. I don't think they're targeting other elected officials. I think they're looking at Trump and his inner circle, Mark Meadows, Rudy Giuliani. I think are the highest two.
Don Eastman.
Maybe a couple other names. This guy from the Justice Department that they thought about putting in charge, but he was a complete doofus and he didn't do it. So I think those people are the ones looking at charges. But even, as damning as this evidence is, and we know that people like Matt Gaetz and that other congresswoman were promoting the narrative that was out there publicly, I haven't seen anything tying them to the things that Trump was up to, like, those people got guns, let's go to the Capitol and hang out there for a while. And that's the kind of stuff I think that really has the potential to bring on criminal charges, and we'll see what happens here in the near future. But I don't know, amongst the other elected officials, as far as widespread arrests and things like that, it gets kind of scary when you start arresting public officials, and were they really guilty of a crime, or are they just whipping the public up into a frenzy as politicians are known to do?
Well, Trump will be the first, if they go this route, Trump will be the first president ever to be indicted for a crime. So I guess, I'm holding out hope that they are going to do something, because everybody's looking at this. They're putting the hearings in prime time, so obviously they want you to see it. Everybody's looking at this saying, you got to do something. You got to do something. And no, Manchin and Sinema are not going to get in the way of that something. This is the DOJ. I got to make sure everybody says DO as opposed to DL. This is the Department of Justice. The ball's in their court in this regard. But there are things that you can do as an elected official, especially Joe Biden. Not so much. And I'm not looking so much at January 6th. But in particular, I'm looking at Biden. I'm looking at the fact that we do have an insurrectionist vibe going on within the conservatives in this society. They do want to tear this country apart, particularly because we're the ones that are kind of sort of running it now. The people that they have worked so hard to cut down didn't work. And now they want to tear the country apart because they can't have their way anymore. And what I mean by that is what the Republican Party of Texas did. They put on their plank an effort to put secession on the ballot in Texas next year. Now we're getting down and dirty.
See you later.
No, because I'm gonna tell you this right now. First of all, I gotta stop. I gotta call people out whenever they say that it's okay if Texas leaves. It's okay if some other red state leaves, because we got people there, and we got people who might not want to leave the United States, and they are going to want to maintain their American status, and that's when
protections.
Yeah, let's say Austin, Texas says, no, we're not succeeding.
So let them into the mainland. We got plenty of area around Texas. And then cut off trade. Yeah. They're not going to succeed. They're not that stupid.
You can't just, you worked hard to build things there. It is yours. More to the point, you are maintaining resources that benefit the entire country, the entire society that you're in, and they're about to be taken away by by these idiots who want to take it for their country. So, and Beth will be back, do not worry. But the thing is, we got people that understand this. We have people that will be showing, that will not yield to any degree of secession efforts that are being made by anybody, the state of Texas and what have you. And when they fight, they're going to fight back, and there's going to be bloodshed. And let us not forget, if Texas were to in fact succeed, indigenous people have lands in Texas that were stolen from them, and they're going to want that land back. Yeah. So now you got more bloodshed on top of that.
I mean, I see this as one of those issues, kind of like in England when they had the Brexit, when they voted to leave the European Union, and then the next day, the most searched term was, what is Brexit? Like these are people in Texas that would immediately vote to secede from the union and then not spend any time at all thinking about what the consequences of that would be. I mean, just like from like their own money.
That's why I say let them go, because all the stuff you guys are saying is going to happen is correct. And maybe we need something like that to shock people awake and say, hey, look, they're going to take away your country if you keep electing these. And Abbott is this guy who's doing completely insane things with child services and transgender. How many more times do we need to be shocked? Texas needs to maybe learn a lesson. So if they want to try to get out, they wouldn't last a year if
we're abandoning the vulnerable people. We're abandoning trans people. We're abandoning women. We're abandoning people of color. We're abandoning immigrants.
Yeah.
Oh, y'all talking over each other right quick, Beth?
Sorry.
I agree. I agree with what you're saying, but I don't think it'll get to that point, because at a certain point, when they
a 10-year-old child will be forced to bear a baby right now, though. That's how evil they are.
That's happening now, though. That's happening now, and they're country.
They don't care if 40 immigrants burn to death in a semi truck. They'll do anything. So if they secede, we are abandoning those people to evil forces.
I don't think the situation is any different. I don't think you're abandoning them. It remains unchanged.
Well, I know one thing for sure. I won't be abandoning them, and I think we just need to be prepared for that. But here's the thing. It's a moot point. Secession trying to secede is illegal, right?
We had a war about that.
So yeah, we had a war about that. The war pretty much said no. You are not able to see. Unlike the EU, we're not in the same kind of structure here in the United States. We are one country. And I'm not sitting there trying to wave a flag or anything. That's what it is.
We had a war about states' rights too, which racism and patriarchy, it always comes back to states' rights.
Yeah, and matter of fact, a couple of weeks ago, we celebrated the fact that Texas lost in Juneteenth. So and maybe that's what's getting them off. Maybe that's why some of their textbooks are not calling it slavery anymore. But what was it? Involuntary
relocation.
Oh God!
Which is what they used to describe the Holocaust in some German textbooks back in the day. But here's the thing about it. Going back to my point, it's against the law to even try to succeed. But they're working. But the Republican Party of Texas is trying to do it anyway. This is where Biden can come in and do something very drastic that unfortunately, per our conversation, it's not going to happen. I put this out on Twitter. No person who is currently a member of the Republican Party of Texas should be allowed to hold any governmental office, period. Appointed or elected, none, period, paragraph to end. You have taken an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States, and you told everybody that you're going against it. And Biden, and you don't have to go through Congress, Biden can executive order that one. Yeah. Now we're talking about, that will cause some serious damage to all the efforts that the Republican Party has been trying to do, because Texas has Cruz and Cornyn, plus a lot of Congress people. And the Democrats will have one hell of a majority in both seats. If they cannot, and that means that the governor is gone. That means their senators are gone. That means some of their whack job Congress. Well, Gohmert's leaving anyway. None of them should be allowed to hold public office. And it's not just general principle, it's the law. They should not be allowed to hold political office, period.
No one's
and like I said, Biden can executive order all of those positions away. There is nothing.
Can I ask how you got this strategy? Like where did this originate from? It's interesting, but I'm sure obviously it's going to wind up in courts. Somebody with some legal knowledge.
Of course, it will wind up. It will wind up in courts. It will definitely wind up in courts. But you read about how executive orders are put out there, and executive orders have as much power as any law that goes through Congress. And this is and they're already violating. Technically, they probably could be arrested for trying to pull this stuff. But
is it on where is it? Is it actually on the Republican Party of Texas platform?
It is. They did that this week. I mean, or rather, at their last convention where they kicked out the log cabin Republicans. Yeah, let us not forget that now that the TERFs had made going after LGBTQ communities fashionable, the right is definitely seizing upon that. So bye-bye log cabin Republicans in Texas. Oh, yeah, right. They went after Dan Crenshaw, who was a stalwart conservative. I don't know why, but this is definitely in the platform. I'm gonna, because it's 8:32. Well, we're still running. But I'm gonna look it up online right now.
That's what I was doing. There was some other pretty horrible stuff in there too. They said Biden's win was illegitimate. That was one of the things.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd heard about that one. It's like, and if you get a chance, they had the Wyoming primaries, and you got to see the maniacs that Liz Cheney has been campaigning against. And I'm not a fan of Liz Cheney, but we had talked in the past about, in the chat about, what Liz Cheney is doing is definitely effective and hopefully hurting the Trump wing of the party. But I do not like Liz Cheney, but at least she in some way lives in the real world. If you get a chance to just check out some clips of the Wisconsin Senate primary, it's absolutely frightening. And I mean, this is easily, I would say, a third of the country that believes this. Easily a third of Republicans believe in some kind of violent confrontation with the government. I mean, it's incredibly dangerous, the times we're living in now, and people just don't really seem to be aware of that.
I don't like Liz Cheney either. I agree, Christian. But when we look at the national stage, she's the only politician we see who is standing up to what, and she said Trump is a domestic threat like we've never faced before. And I believe that's true. Yeah. And I believe there's a very real possibility of the Republicans sweeping the midterms and Trump being the president in 2024. Yeah. And when I think about it, and that's why I think it's so important that we don't see the political fight. Just those mutual aid organizations, those movements are so important, but we've got to stay in the political fight as well, because we could be creating a country right now where those movements could not happen. Occupy would not happen because all of those people would be immediately imprisoned. With the Supreme Court we've had now, the right to protest, how much longer will it be protected?
Oh, yeah.
We've got to fight back against this.
All I got to say is that voting rights is on the docket for next session, which means this time
turning
next
it
year,
over to state legislatures.
Oh, yeah.
I just want to put this out about the succession thing. This is from PolitiFact, and it says the GOP Platforms Committee wrote, quote, "We urge the state legislature to pass bill in its next session requiring a referendum in the 2023 general election for the people of Texas to determine whether or not the state of Texas to reassert its status as an independent nation." This was on June 18th when they did this. The party also adopted a resolution questioning the presidential election, as you pointed out, Beth. And the 10th Amendment. Wait, hold on one moment. They said, is it legal? But they point out, PolitiFact says this: is it legal for Texas to succeed? Sanford Levison, a professor of government at the University of Texas School of Law, said whether Texas could secede is more a political question than a legal one. As a legal question, lawyers could have differing interpretations. But I would tell you, you can get some lawyers to say, oh, no, states simply can't succeed under any circumstances. And you can get some lawyers to say, well, actually, the best understanding of the Constitution is that a state can legitimately succeed under circumstances. So, but even though there is we can debate that, the one thing that can't be debated is the fact that any elected or appointed official that is a Republican in the state of Texas took an oath before they took their office that they will uphold the Constitution. This is not upholding the Constitution. This is not upholding, this is not them protecting the United States of America. They have to go. They have to go. There's a lot of things that are happening in this day and age while we're sitting there talking about how things are falling more and more. Our democracy is deteriorating. The biggest thing that really annoys the living hell out of me is the fact that we could stop it. We could stop it. It's all a matter of will. It's all a matter of will. Evil flourishes, good people do nothing. Period.
Also, in the new platform, it calls for treating homosexuality as an abnormal lifestyle choice. And it will require Texas students to learn about the humanity of the preborn child, including teaching that life begins at fertilization and requiring students to listen to live ultrasounds of gestating fetuses.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's in kindergarten or what grade they're going to start that, but.
In fact, I do believe there is a bill that was introduced, an anti-LGBTQ bill in Texas that is basically trying to, to make sodomy illegal.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, that's all coming.
Like they're going back to that. I know a number of states that had those kinds of laws. The Supreme Court struck down that law in Texas by a 6-3 decision. It was Lawrence versus Texas, and a Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton would defend sodomy law if SCOTUS revets Lawrence versus Texas. So if they do that, then we got that problem again. Bottom line is we're sitting there. We got to start asking ourselves, what are we doing? Never mind our elected officials. What are we doing? We're seeing this happen. We know what's going to come to us at some point. If you don't think whatever's going on is going to harm you, you're not paying attention. And that's such the truth of the matter. I mean, I would also say, per the documentary, don't walk in fear. If you go to Talking Walls Films on Talking Wall Studios, on Instagram, you can see some information about them, about the documentary, and they have a link to their website there, and you'll see the trailer for We Don't Walk in Fear. We have ran long, so how do you feel about everything, Beth? about this show and about coming here week after week after week after week.
I think it's some great conversation. You all give me hope in a bleak time.
Yeah, and by the way, everybody, want to say something about the Foster Woods, just to remind people what everybody is, where everybody knows you're from.
Sure. Foster Woods Folk School we focus on English language arts, social studies, and history education. Primarily right now, we are focusing on 3rd grade through high school, but we also have done some adult programming. I've been working this summer on developing a new course for high school students. It's called America Uncensored High School U.S. History. As this right-wing extremist religious government takes control of our public schools, we need to do everything we possibly can to ensure that people who are coming of age right now are able to access a real education about the history of the United States. So we're going to be offering this. It's a 2-part course. It'll be a year long, but part 1 is starting at the end of August, and it will cover the indigenous nations before Europeans through Reconstruction. And it's a history course that you're going to learn everything that you would learn in an American history course, while also considering the experiences of Americans of different sexes, genders, sexual orientations, classes, and national origins. Part 2 will be offered in the spring, and that's going to cover Jim Crow through current events. So that's just we have a 3rd through high school history ELA. The classes, we have some offered during the day if there's homeschool or if you're in another part of the world. We also have evening courses for people who are in the United States and public schooling, but want to supplement that as the extremists take more and more out of curriculum in public education. So there are class fees. If those are a barrier, just email. We'll make scholarships available.
And you can be found over at fosterwoods.org. Correct?
Mm-hmm. That's it.
All right. Christian, what's going on with you?
Not much. Just like I said earlier, enjoying the summer. I'm trying to get back on TikTok. I'm doing this social media thing. That's what the kids are into. So I'm trying to do more of that. Just working on some more content and stuff like that. Other than that, nothing's really new with me. You could follow me on Twitter at Perez Podcast, on TikTok at Perez Podcast, or you can follow me on Facebook, Christian Perez. You could look me up.
And then finally, Brian, what's going on?
Yeah, man. I've taken advantage of the summer by getting some audio books in, and I thought I'd mention a couple. I don't get paid, and there's no sponsorship here. I stumbled across a couple of great books, and the first one is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. It's about a woman in the 1950s who's a single mother. She's a scientist. There's some humor in it. It's a fiction book. I don't do much fiction, but it was really, really good. And I also just finished up Malcolm X, A Life of Reinvention by Manning Marable. I think it goes into a lot of details. It's a controversial book. I think some of the stuff in it, it piques your interest. I'll let you get into it, but it also provides some new levels of detail about Malcolm's life. His early life, his mom, his dad. You'll learn a little bit about Marcus Garvey and Garveyism. So it was a really great read. And I thought I'd mention a couple of books for everybody if they have some time to try to enjoy it.
Yeah, Manning Marable is a hell of an author. I can believe that it was probably a controversial book. I met him. He passed away, for those who don't know. Manning Marable was just one hell of a read. And I met him during the Abner Louima marches. We marched across the Brooklyn Bridge. And I need to read that book. I didn't even know that book existed. So, I mean, there's a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say the big accusation. I mean, there's some notes that maybe Malcolm had a homosexual affair with a wealthy white guy as a young man. But he offers, honestly, while many other details of the book, he offers a lot of proof.
Yes, I do know this book.
What's that? Yeah, I mean, he offers.
No, I'm sorry. I
very slim. Can I be honest with you? He offers very flimsy proof. Not that if it happened, it makes any difference, and there's no judgment on it. But I do think that the evidence he offers in support of it in the book, and I'll let you read it if you see it, it's not real solid, man. It's not. There's other details, though, I think are, and I think, from what I gather, he was telling the truth for the most part. I just found that detail to be superfluous. Honestly, if it did happen, so what? Who cares? And if it didn't, if he had solid proof, I could understand mentioning it. But I didn't hear like this, well, there was a note or a love letter found there. Nothing like that exists. It's just kind of some coincidences, and I don't think it adds up to
fair enough.
Make it happen.
No, fair enough. I try to stay away from outing people like that too. I mean, but yeah, I do remember this book. I remember that controversy. I believe I was writing for the City News when City News was the weekly Black newspaper in New Jersey. I remember I was writing about Manning Marable, and I think that came up. So yeah, this would have been back in 97, 98. I have to check. I have to revisit how I knew about this. But in any case, y'all, if y'all want to follow me, I'm at Daryl Lamont. I'm at D Lamont Jenkins on Twitter and Instagram. You can also hit up Idavox at Idavox OPP on Twitter. Of course, Idavox.com. One People's Project is One People's Proj, PROJ, on Twitter. Also, OnePeoplesProject.com or net. We're going to be back in a couple of weeks, and we're going to be talking about whatever the hell happened during that time. Because I guarantee there'll be something to talk about. Beth, want to come back?
I will. I would love to.
All right. We will welcome you with open arms. And I still want to talk about, because it was so funny how I sent y'all a link. I was one of the episodes that we did was me trying to make the case that Abraham Lincoln could have possibly been a Marxist, considering he was pen pals with Karl Marx.
We can revisit
and
that.
I found an article.
Let's do it.
We got to revisit that, especially after that article that I saw in Chronicles Magazine. For all those who don't know, Chronicles Magazine is a neo-Confederate website. Publication. I mean, they believe in they call for secession all the time on this thing, and somebody over there wrote an article about how Karl Marx was pro-union, as in the United States of America. He was on the side of the boys in blue, the other boys in blue. So he was down with Abraham Lincoln and all that. And I was just like, man, this is getting closer to my theory. We got to discuss this. So at some point we'll get around to it. We won't dwell on it as much as we did the other day, the other episode, but we definitely, I want to talk about that so bad. But that all depends on what's happening in the next 2 weeks. For all we know, they might burn the White House to the ground again. So, I mean, you can't make light of that seriously, because it could happen. I apologize.
Possible.
Yeah.
It's okay to have some uncomfortable laughter in these times. It's really all you can do.
Yeah, I mean, but you got to be careful. I think in my case, I'm thinking more on the lines of, you got to be careful. You could be saying it into existence. I could have said that as somebody sitting there going, what's stopping us? We have tiki torches. We can do it. So, all right, y'all. Like I said, we ran long. That's okay. They gave us all the time in the world on YouTube and on podcasts. So I want to thank all of y'all for watching us, for supporting us. I want to thank everybody for helping me get out to Idaho. Now let's see if we can maybe we can build a women's facility or someplace in either my home state or in the state that actually probably would need it more, So, because I know Illinois, incidentally, is making themselves a sanctuary state. So maybe we can help out another state to do it. So once again, thanks everybody for being on. We will see y'all in a couple of weeks, and we'll have something spectacular to talk about then. So until then, y'all, peace.
Bye-bye.
Why do you think that you have the right to silence me?
I always said that I don't want to be heard, I want to be felt. I don't want to make my mark, I want to make my dent.
I didn't realize at the time that I was actually one of the biggest activists and largest organizers of white nationalism and alt-right in the United States.
They are what is considered by most people sort of your button-up white supremacists, your suit-and-tie Nazis.
Arguably, what they spew, while it's hateful and deplorable, is political speech, and so therefore it's protected under the Constitution.
Pat, why are you letting the fascists out here? You've got us locked up, but you're letting the fascists come and harass us? We want them out of here now, damn it, or we're coming over the fucking barrier!
I can't walk in fear, and we don't walk in fear, you know, and I thank God for that.
Honestly, I wanted to make sure that when I left this earth, there would be something left behind that was worth a damn.